So let's begin with the big question. Should you even marry a Muslim woman with children from a previous marriage? Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to discuss a very complicated issue that is often avoided in the Muslim community: Muslim single mothers. I felt there was a need to discuss this issue as many young Muslim men and women are being influenced by secular Western society. Much of the discourse regarding single moms of late has come from the so-called red pill or the manosphere crowd. Now, some of the ideas from this crowd are beneficial. However, in most cases, they're just plain old haram without any question. And unfortunately, some of this ideology has crossed over into the Muslim community as well. So the question is, how should we as Muslims, especially Muslim men, how should we handle this situation? Should Muslim men willingly marry single Muslim mothers as a form of communal charity? Or should Muslim men avoid caring for another man's child at all costs? Or perhaps single Muslim mothers should lower their standards and take whatever they can get. Let's talk about it and see if we can find a more balanced solution to this issue. First, let's begin by acknowledging that our community, the Muslim community within the United States specifically, is different. A lot of the rhetoric coming from the manosphere boils down to have fun with single moms, but don't marry them. Fornication, or zina in Islam, is a major sin, and the hudud, that is the punishment, it is very severe. We can see this from this verse in Surah An-Nur. As for female and male fornicators, give each of them 100 lashes, and do not let pity for them make you lenient in enforcing the law of Allah, if you truly believe in Allah and the last day, and let a number of believers witness their punishment. A male fornicator would only marry a female fornicator or an idolatress, and a female fornicator would only be married to a fornicator or idolater. This is all forbidden to the believers. Now, we can't and we do not implement this punishment in the United States, but nonetheless, this indicates the magnitude of this sin. So as Muslims, we don't have the option to date or mess around or get into situationships and all these other things. We're either married or we're celibate. So today we're only talking about marrying single mothers, not dating them. Another thing to remember is that we all have to answer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So let's be careful about copying the negative behavior and the negative attitudes of some of the non-Muslims. By this, I'm speaking of the condescending and disrespectful way that many men online speak about single mothers. As Muslims, we should not copy this behavior and understand that it is sinful to dishonor or be condescending or disrespectful to our Muslim sisters. Real quick, I want to discuss the issue of polygamy or polygyny. Some people may say that this could be a solution for single mothers, but I don't believe that this is actually a practical solution. Now, it may help in a few rare circumstances, but it will not help on a large scale, at least not in this society. Most of those who want to do it cannot afford it, and most of those who can afford it don't want to do it. Let's define what exactly is a single mother. Most non-Muslim single mothers become single mothers through fornication. It's a well-known statistic, and I hate to have to repeat it, but it is out there. 70% of black children in the United States are born outside of wedlock. That is a very depressing and very unfortunate statistic. Now, most Muslim single mothers became single mothers by divorce. Now, sometimes they may become single mothers by death of their husband. They became widows, but definitely divorce is way more common. So today we're going to focus on divorced Muslim mothers. Unfortunately, the perception of divorced women in most traditional Islamic societies is very negative. There is, unfortunately, a cultural stigma against divorced and sometimes even widowed women in most Muslim societies. Interestingly, however, there is very little stigma against divorced women in the Black American Muslim community. It is very common, and I mean very common, for divorced Black Muslim women, even with children, to remarry, sometimes multiple times. So with that in mind, let me give some advice to brothers who are considering marrying a divorced Muslim mother. So let's begin with the big question. Should you even marry a Muslim woman with children from a previous marriage? Well, I would give you the same advice that I would give my own son. It all depends on your situation. Look, if you are a Muslim man who's never been married, you have no children, and you have maintained your chastity, I would suggest you marry a woman with those same attributes. Now, if you are a Muslim man and you have fornicated as a Muslim, knowing that it was sinful, then actually I would advise the sister not to marry you. And I would advise you to marry someone outside of the faith. Now, what if you are a righteous, upstanding, but divorced Muslim man? In that case, the decision really is yours. I will not advise you to marry a divorced Muslim mother out of some sort of charitable endeavor, nor will I advise you to not marry one whatsoever. The decision is yours, but there are certain factors I would at least suggest you keep in mind. Now, assuming the child is over a certain age, and assuming the child's biological father is a decent Muslim, then brother, I would suggest that you insist the child goes to live with the father before you marry the mother.
Islam says that when a woman gets married to another man, her children, custody must be taken out or away from her and given back to her husband. This is the norm, because I, as a divorced father, would not want my children to be raised up in the house of another man.
If possible, try to meet the father, the biological father yourself, and gauge his character for yourself, because his ex-wife, who's your soon-to-be wife, may have a lot of bad things to say about him that could be exaggerated because she may be coming from a position of hurt and pain and anger. Now, why do I make this suggestion that the child should stay with his biological father? Well, Islamically, as a stepfather, you do not have any parental rights over your stepchild. Your relationship with a stepchild is like that of just about any other Muslim. There's a small exception where you are a mahram to a stepdaughter. That is, that she doesn't have to wear the hijab around you and you cannot marry her. Otherwise, stepchildren do not owe the same obedience to their stepfather as they would to their biological father. Also, Islamically, you are not financially responsible for your stepchild. As a Muslim, you have a divine responsibility for your biological children. You do not have to care for your stepchildren. Now, if circumstances dictate that the stepchild has to live with you, then the wise thing to do is that you provide for that child and you treat the child well, because obviously that will improve the relationship with the mother. And that is, of course, very important. And inshallah, you will receive the reward from Allah. But it is not an obligation. Likewise, the stepchild should respect the stepfather like they would any other Muslim adult, but it's not the same obedience that they would owe to their biological father. Also, brothers, if you have an ex-wife and your ex-wife wants to remarry, then you should take custody of your biological children. Unless you are homeless, crazy, or addicted to something, if you are a Muslim, then you should take your biological children, especially the boys. Now, here's my advice to divorced Muslim mothers. If your ex-husband is a decent Muslim, and if the child is old enough, we're not talking about an arm baby, let the child live with his father, especially boys. I can't stress to you enough that this is a major hurdle for men. I truthfully don't understand why so many women want to hold on to the custody of their children, especially when the child's father is a good person. We're not talking about bums or homeless men. We're talking about good men who would be good fathers, but for some reason the mother wants to hold on to that child. It's either one of three things. Either it's they want to get those child support payments, or maybe there's maternal affection where the mother just doesn't want to let go of the child because of their motherly love, or it's for power and control. So long as the mother has custody of the child, she has a way to punish the father or control the biological father, whom she's no longer with. There are so many benefits to letting the child remain with their biological father. For one thing, it will make it easier for you to remarry. Also, it will lessen the financial burden on your new husband. Look, it is unfair to expect your new husband to care for another man's child, yet he cannot discipline that child. And when that child becomes a teenager, especially for boys, this will be even more difficult. Now, in some cases, of course, there will be no choice. The child will have to stay with you after you remarry. I can understand that those situations may happen. If that does happen, you have to make sure that that child respects the stepfather. It's best if this happens at a young age, like before the age of 5, where a bond can grow between the stepfather and the stepchild. You should also respect the rights of the biological father. Don't try to replace the child's biological father with the stepfather. That's going to backfire eventually. We also have to acknowledge that there are many single mothers who convert to Islam. That means that they had children with someone else before they became Muslim. And then the mother converted to Islam and she brought the children on into the religion with her. Well, the question boils down to if the child was born in wedlock. If the child was born in wedlock, the child should still go back to the biological father, even if the biological father is not Muslim. Look, just because you're Muslim doesn't mean you get to take someone else's child. Now, what if the child was born out of wedlock to a non-Muslim father? Now, I personally have never asked a scholar about this situation, nor have I ever read a fatwa giving a ruling on this situation. Now, there was a friend of mine who was in such a situation, and he was advised by a scholar that he asked that the mother, who is now his wife, who is now Muslim, she was advised to keep the children because the children were born outside of wedlock to a non-Muslim man. My wife and I have been married for over 25 years, so I don't know what it's like to be a divorced man nor marry a divorced woman. So this advice that I'm giving you, these are really broad strokes. Every family, every situation is unique, and you may have certain exceptions to your personal situation. I would advise you to consult your local imam or a scholar you trust or a Muslim family counselor for more personalized advice. With that, let me know your thoughts on this issue. Leave your suggestions in the comments below. YouTube thinks you will like the video to the left, but if you want to know why Black American Muslims are poorer than other Muslims, then check out the video to the right. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.